Most gardeners spend years chasing the wrong problem. They keep adding compost, fertilizers, and miracle inputs, yet ignore the one factor quietly sabotaging their harvests: contaminated water and toxic buildup in the root zone. That mistake doesn't show up immediately. Plants still grow, leaves still form, and everything looks fine from a distance. But yields stay average, flavors flatten, and resilience drops. Over time, the system weakens, and no amount of feeding fixes it. There's a grass that flips that entire equation on its head. Not a fragile ornamental, not a trendy herb, but a rugged industrial-level plant that survives minus 15 degrees Celsius, cold snaps, and 55 degrees Celsius heat waves while actively pulling heavy metals out of water and soil. This isn't theoretical lab data. It performs in real gardens, in runoff zones, in raised beds exposed to roadside dust, and even inside hydroponic systems where water quality determines everything. Before getting deeper into how this works, there's something that deserves attention beyond the garden. A dog rescue organization relies entirely on donations to keep going, rescuing, feeding, and treating abandoned and injured dogs that would otherwise be left to suffer. Support keeps that mission alive. If this kind of knowledge brings value, consider contributing in any way possible. Even a small donation makes a real difference. And any commissions earned from tools mentioned here also go towards supporting that effort, turning practical gardening into something that helps beyond the fence line. The plant behind all this is vetiver grass. What makes it powerful isn't what's above the ground, but what happens below it. Roots don't spread shallow like most grasses. They drive straight down, often reaching 3 meters or more, forming a dense vertical wall underground. That structure traps contaminants, slows water, and stabilizes soil in a way no surface-level fix ever can. Water movement is where most systems fail, especially in hydroponics and small backyard setups. Stagnant water becomes a breeding ground for imbalance, low oxygen, microbial problems, and nutrient lockout. This is where a tool like the VivoSun 800 gallons per hour submersible water pump becomes essential. It's linked in the description below. This product is from Amazon, and this content uses Amazon affiliate links, meaning a small commission may be earned from qualifying purchases at no extra cost. That commission helps support the dog rescue organization mentioned earlier. In practical terms, this pump keeps water moving through vetiver root zones, dramatically increasing how efficiently contaminants are absorbed and broken down. Most gardeners plant vetiver incorrectly, and that's where results fall apart. Scattering it randomly across a garden wastes its potential. This plant works best when treated like infrastructure. In a backyard garden with a slight slope, placing vetiver in a tight line along the lower edge creates a living barrier. Water moving downhill slows as it hits the root wall, sediments drop, and pollutants get trapped before reaching crops. Spacing makes or breaks effectiveness. Clumps planted 10 to 15 centimeters apart form a dense hedge that actually filters water. Wider gaps weaken the system and let runoff slip through untreated. In raised beds, vetiver belongs along the edges or in separate strips, not mixed directly with vegetables where it competes for nutrients. Hydroponic growers can take this even further. Vetiver can be grown in net pots or floating setups, with roots submerged directly in pre-filtration tanks or side reservoirs. As water passes through, roots capture heavy metals and excess nutrients. But without proper circulation, performance drops sharply. Moving water ensures that every part of the root system stays active, which is why a reliable pump isn't optional in these setups. Temperature resilience is one of vetiver's biggest advantages. While most crops shut down in extreme heat or cold, this grass keeps functioning. In hot climates, where water temperatures rise and algae becomes a problem, vetiver continues absorbing excess nutrients and stabilizing the system. In cooler conditions, it slows but doesn't collapse, maintaining structure and protecting soil. There's also a deeper effect happening in the soil that many growers miss. Heavy metals and toxins don't just harm plants, they disrupt microbial life. Beneficial bacteria and fungi struggle to survive in contaminated environments. By removing those contaminants, Vetiver indirectly restores soil biology. Over time, the soil becomes more active, more balanced, and far more productive without constant intervention. One common concern is whether vetiver becomes invasive. The correct variety used for filtration and soil stabilization is sterile. It doesn't spread through seeds, which means it stays exactly where it's planted. In practical use, water clarity improves surprisingly quickly. In small backyard systems, visible changes can appear within 1 to 2 weeks. In hydroponic reservoirs, unpleasant odors caused by imbalance often reduce within days once vetiver roots are actively filtering and water is properly circulated. That circulation keeps coming up because it matters that much. A pump like the VivoSun 800 GPH ensures water doesn't stagnate around roots. Maintenance is simpler than most expect, but it still matters. Vetiver doesn't need constant trimming, and overcutting actually reduces its effectiveness. Leaves can be trimmed every couple of months to keep things tidy, but the real strength is underground. Preserving that root mass is what keeps the system working. Those cut leaves aren't waste. They can be used as mulch, and unlike soft plant material that breaks down quickly, vetiver leaves decompose slowly. A layer about 5 to 10 centimeters thick around crops helps retain moisture, suppress weeds, and improve soil structure over time. For growers dealing with runoff or grey water, vetiver can be used to create a natural filtration channel. Water flows through a planted strip before reaching the main garden. As it passes through dense roots, contaminants get trapped and broken down. This method has been used effectively in both small-scale gardens and larger agricultural setups. There's a reason this approach isn't widely promoted in mainstream gardening content. It doesn't sell quick fixes. It requires planning, positioning, and a shift in thinking. But once established, it reduces the need for constant correction, less reliance on chemical treatments, fewer emergency fixes, and more stable growing conditions. In hydroponic systems, combining vetiver with consistent water movement creates a hybrid approach that balances control with natural filtration. Nutrient solutions stay more stable, root diseases become less common, and plants grow more consistently. That stability translates directly into better yields and fewer losses. Urban growers can also benefit from this approach. Vetiver can be grown in containers near drainage points where runoff collects. It won't replace a full filtration system, but it significantly improves water quality before it re-enters the growing cycle. Another overlooked benefit is how vetiver handles excess nutrients. Overfeeding is a common mistake, especially in hydroponics. Nutrient buildup leads to imbalances that stress plants. Vetiver absorbs part of that excess, acting as a buffer that reduces the impact of those mistakes. The root structure is what makes all of this possible. Instead of spreading horizontally, vetiver roots grow vertically in dense formations. This creates a physical and biological barrier that traps sediments, filters water, and stabilizes the environment around it. Water movement enhances that effect every time. A steady flow increases contact between water and roots, improving filtration efficiency. Without movement, performance slows. With consistent circulation, results improve dramatically. Financially, this approach makes sense as well. Instead of repeatedly spending on fertilizers and treatments to fix recurring problems, vetiver provides a long-term solution that keeps working year after year. Establishing vetiver requires some patience at the start. Roots need time to anchor and expand. During that phase, consistent watering is important, especially in dry conditions. Once established, the plant becomes extremely drought-tolerant and requires very little maintenance. In areas with heavy rainfall, vetiver becomes even more valuable. It prevents soil erosion, captures nutrients before they wash away, and stabilizes garden structures. Raised beds last longer, pathways stay intact, and overall maintenance decreases. There's a bigger lesson here that applies beyond this single plant. The most effective growing systems work with natural processes instead of constantly fighting them. Vetiver doesn't force results. It creates the conditions where better results happen naturally. As systems become more advanced, whether in a backyard garden or a hydroponic setup, stability becomes the foundation. Clean water, balanced soil, and controlled flow determine success. Vetiver strengthens all three at once, and once again, circulation ties everything together. Whether it's a small tank, a pond, or a runoff channel, moving water through vetiver roots multiplies its effectiveness. A pump like the Vivo Sun 800 GPH ensures that movement stays consistent, turning a simple setup into a high-functioning system. The real shift happens when this becomes part of the design from the beginning. Instead of reacting to problems, the system prevents them. Water gets filtered before it becomes an issue. Soil stays stable before erosion begins. Nutrients stay balanced before deficiencies show up. That's the difference between average gardening and high-performance growing. It's not about doing more, it's about doing what actually works. For anyone serious about producing better food, improving soil health, and building systems that last, this approach is worth implementing as a core strategy, not an experiment. Subscribe and share this with someone who wants real results instead of temporary fixes. Better food starts with better systems, and systems like this quietly handle the hard work in the background. And when that system includes something as reliable as Vetiver, supported by steady water movement, from a tool like the Vivo Sun 800 GPH pump, everything downstream becomes cleaner, stronger, and far more productive.